All right.
Welcome to Hotel Bar Sessions Afterthoughts. This is our chance to rethink what we might have said, what we should have said, what we could have said. I'm Rick Lee, and I would like to welcome my co-host, Charles Peterson.
Hey
How are
now,
you doing, Charles?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to be here at the woulda, coulda, shoulda said sessions.
And Lee Johnson. How are you, Lee?
I'm here. This is not how I normally look. I just got a new bionic eye.
So Lee had eye surgery and she's wearing these glasses because they are medically necessary.
John
So-
Connor, John Connor
But-
sent Lee back from the future to do this podcast with us.
But she
However,
also
however,
great.
I am 100% going to keep wearing these glasses.
She may, in all the future episodes, totally wear these glasses.
Right.
So we're rethinking the episodes on laughter, vulgarity, and
Conspiracy theories.
conspiracy theories.
Is that why
as
you're
the
wearing
woman-
dark glasses? Are you one of the people in black?
So, Charles,
Yes.
let's start with laughter. What are you rethinking from that episode?
You know, I think that there is a racial dynamic to laughter. I think Du Bois talks about sort of the quality of quote unquote Negro laughter and what it means to be able to engage in a certain level of unadulterated, unfiltered joy and happiness within a particular sort of historical social condition. You know, and look, as someone who 100 years ago would have been called a Negro, I completely understand what Du Bois is referencing. There's something about an unadulterated sort of expression of joy, right? That can
So-
take place in the deepest levels of sadness and tragedy.
Charles, so I teach this class on comedy a lot, and this last term I was teaching it, I had a student who said something I'd never thought about before, namely the way in which minority joy is threatening to white culture.
Yeah, that's
Um,
exactly what Du Bois was referencing, or so certainly inferring that there's a freedom to be found in laughter, and there is a sense of I'm in on the joke, and if you're not laughing with me, you're outside of the joke. So that can sort of cultivate a sense of fear, right, on the part of right the majority or the dominant class. So in that sense, sort of black laughter has always been a threat to the sensibilities and the sense of security of white communities and consciousness, really.
So Lee, you have afterthoughts about laughter?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I really loved that episode. Like, I think that we had a lot of fun in it, and I really appreciate you kind of driving home the point that there is something sort of viscerally, corporally pleasurable about laughter that I think that a lot of us who think about comedy and laughter tend to kind of push to the side, but is really important. But I think like maybe the thing that stuck with me the most was us talking about whether or not there is a structure to laughter. And I know in the episode I talked about to try to compare the structure of laughter to the structure of music and say, yeah, like maybe once every now and then there are people who come along and revolutionize it, but really there's this kind of core structure that people are working within. But I think that Rick, were kind of pushing back on that and wanting to say that, maybe there are more revolutions in comedy than there are in music. And I do want to say that after that episode, I watched this Netflix special, the new Netflix special by Bo Burnham, who recorded it entirely during the lockdown in 2021. And I'm not even really sure that technically it's comedy, although like it is like he's a comedian, so maybe it's comedy and there are funny parts in it, so maybe it's comedy, but it is absolutely nothing like anything I've ever seen before in terms of comedy. And so I was watching it and I remember saying to my partner, I was like, well, I really got to apologize to Rick when I see him again, because like there are, maybe these sort of revolutionary moments in comedy come a lot more often than I think. But yeah, I mean, I really love that episode. I'm so happy we did it. And it's definitely maybe a lot more attentive to the structures of comedy as
So
they are.
I would say from that episode, Lee, you proclaimed us, well, yourself primarily, to be objectively hilarious, and then
Well,
Carl,
I mean, like
we got under that umbrella.
look at my glasses. I mean,
but I was surprised at how few jokes came up. I mean, we were all funny, but like no one told any jokes. Well, I gave the mother-in-law joke. But like
really, that's Freud's mother-in-law joke, if I recall.
no,
that wasn't yours. No, that was Freud's joke. So I'm just saying.
Charles was like, bitch, step back.
It actually was not. It actually was not Freud's joke, and Freud doesn't tell mother-in-law jokes. But
I thought that was the whole point of the joke, was that it was Freud's joke.
Exactly. How else would I confuse that?
You lied to us, Wrigley.
Oh
you
my
said
God.
That was Freud's joke.
You played us for a joke.
How dare you?
My point with the mother-in-law joke was his method of translation, right? So I said, my wife's mother doesn't like me and she thinks I don't treat my wife very well and she thinks I'm not good for her. She came to stay with us, and when I drove her to the airport to leave, I thought that was funny. No, sorry, I got pleasure. So that's the translation. The joke is, and this is not Freud's joke, I just got back from a pleasure trip. I took my mother-in-law to the airport. That's a Henny Youngman joke.
No, that's definitely a Henny Youngman joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
I thought that you were saying that was Freud's joke, and that was the example that he actually used for translating a joke into a propositional form. Now I feel like totally lied to. That was the worst episode ever.
My bad.
I'm glad I have my shades on.
The entire
so
laughter
you can't see
episode
my bionic eye.
was based on a lie.
It's based on a lie. It's based on a. So what you're saying is that's a Freudian analysis of the Henny Youngman joke.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I wish you had said that.
I do too. This is why we do these afterthoughts. I wish I had said that.
All right. So
the other thing is, like, so we didn't have a lot of jokes. So let me just lay one of my favorite jokes out. 2 eggs are in a frying pan. One turns to the other and says, "My God, it's hot in here." The other one says, "Holy fuck, a talking egg."
That's a Stephen
That's
Miller.
just a great joke.
That's a Stephen Miller type joke.
Okay.
I feel like we can do a laughter part 2 where we do jokes.
That's actually the whole rest of our season.
That really is. All right, so let's move on to vulgarity.
But that gets us, I think, to vulgarity. And
That
Lee,
gets
Lee, is there something about vulgarity you're thinking about?
Okay, so I know this is going to come as no surprise to either of you, but from the beginning of the episode of vulgarity, I was trying to insist on the difference between vulgarity, profanity, and
blasphemy,
obscenity.
Obscenity,
right? Yeah. And I do want to say again that I think that there is a way in which obscenity can not be vulgar. So I like, just to return to the example that Charles gave, like right at the beginning of our episode, where he's wearing the Goodfellas reference shirt that says like, get your fucking shine box. And by the way, I linked to that scene in our show notes to that episode. So if you haven't
Yeah.
seen Goodfellas, get your fucking shine box, go see Goodfellas. But like, if you haven't seen Goodfellas, you can go see that actual episode. But I do think that that's a really good example of the way that something can be obscene and someone can recognize it as obscene. But because it requires a certain kind of cultural sophistication to get the joke, and maybe this is going back to the laughter episode too, in terms of like the structure of a joke, like in order to get the joke, it requires a certain kind of cultural sophistication. Like I've seen Goodfellas. I think that a person could see that shirt if you wore it in public and say like, that's obscene, they shouldn't wear it in public. But it's not vulgar, it's actually like smart. Like, you know, I mean, it's like
Are you sure, Lee, you're not being
cinephiles.
dumb?
I mean, I would be like cinedumb, right? Like for cinephiles, that's a smart inside joke. It's not vulgar at all, right? Like whereas if I was just sitting in the MAPCO, and I was like, I'm on pump fucking one, that's just vulgar and obscene, right? Like there's no kind of sophistication to that. But I do think that like, so I just want to kind of retrieve the obscene from the vulgar and say that there's a way to separate the vulgar from the obscene. But I love that discussion. I think that it involved a lot of like really weirdly, finely detailed kind of distinctions that, you know, they kind of made me excited. I'm not going to lie.
Charles, vulgarity was your thing. Do you have afterthoughts about it?
Wow. First of all, that vulgarity was my thing. I may be a little offended by that. No,
it is 100% your thing, motherfucker.
I'm just fucking around. No, what I sort of wish I had thought about more and spoken about more was the place of vulgarity in sort of African American popular culture, and thinking about the whole idea of working blue, and that how that was such a distinctive feature of a certain tradition of African American comedy, leading up until really, you know, Richard Pryor's breakthrough in the early 70s, mid 70s, and where a huge sort of type of the discourse and language and subject matter Pryor brought into the mainstream, but, you know, had been sort of bandied about certainly by predecessors in particular, such as like Red Fox.
I was just going to say
Right.
Yeah.
So, but it seems to me that's an interesting way to think about, and we talked about this a little bit, as vulgarity as being a type of voice for the underclasses or for marginalized groups, and sort of that tradition of working blue among African American communities, how that is an example of that very specific sort of social consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I love how we just take all the piss out of humor with our PH dumbness.
Yeah. I thought in that episode, first of all, like we swear a lot during this podcast, but we swore less during that vulgarity podcast than we.
Wait, I can't get my things right. Wait, they swear a lot. Why is this so hard?
Too late, motherfucker.
No matter how I do it, it's wrong.
In for a penny, in for a pound. Too late. You're with us.
Also, I
think swear a lot during this podcast.
Also, I think in that episode, both Charles and I, and he just did it, dropped the vulgarity motherfucker, which I think is really interesting as a vulgarity and has to be thought about. But we were way less vulgar that episode.
Well, I tell people
we ever have been.
Motherfucker is such a part of how I conceive of my sort of way of engaging the world. And I'll tell you this: if I can't drop the term motherfucker with you, then we can't be friends.
Right.
It's just
Although I do have to say this, I feel bad for not saying this because I actually wrote this essay like a few years ago for I'm pretty sure, I don't remember who I wrote it for, but I think it was like the APA feminist blog, where I did say that we needed to stop you dropping the F-bomb as a verb, right? Like fuck you, or like, whatever. Because I do think that it is a way of it's a subtle kind of affirmation of rape culture, right? Like, to like use like fuck you or whatever as an insult, right? Like, because it's suggesting like what I want to happen to you is like non-consensual sex,
yeah,
right?
unnatural and violent and
and
right. I want fucking to be a horrible thing for you.
Yeah, and I do think that like I have actually, like since I read that, I mean, I remember like making a kind of point in my life. It's like I've got to stop doing this and using this, and it's weird because I literally just a minute ago said like motherfucker to you, but like I called you a motherfucker, but like maybe that's not different, right? But I do think that like I have really made an effort to try to not use the F word as a verb, because again, I think that like there's something that we really need to think about. That's not just about vulgarity or obscenity or profanity. That's about, a larger kind of culture of, affirming, non-consensual sex.
But on the other hand, my former wife is from Poland, and she's lived in the United States for 28 years, and she still has not mastered the grammar of various forms of fuck. Like, so fucked up, like she'll sometimes say, oh, you up fucked, or you out fucked, or you off fucked. And like, it's really complicated. And then I think like, it doesn't actually mean the sex act anymore.
No. I am.
I know. I feel like I up fuck a lot.
No, I've had some friends from West Africa who were like, "Oh, you're so fucking." It's like, what is? I don't. I kind of intuitively know what you meant by that, but okay.
I mean, here's the thing: like, so much of obscenity is about context and delivery, right? Like, so even if you say the wrong word, it doesn't matter. Like, if I was like, you flurb, like flurb you, like even if I just made up a word, it wouldn't matter. Like the meaning is the same. But vulgarity, it matters what you say, it seems like. Right.
So,
because
well, I'm not sure about that, because like I'll give you a quick example. I was on a tram in Krakow in Poland, and this really old
Rick, have you ever been to Poland though?
Maybe I never mentioned that I lived in Poland. So
I was gonna ask if you've been to a
say more.
No, I was gonna ask, have you been to another country beside Poland? I mean,
yes.
Okay, good.
Have you ever had a humorous incident happen in Poland?
Or have you ever had a humorous incident that happened in another country beside Poland? I mean, Hungary, maybe.
God. Charles,
Germany. Have you had something? Have you had something funny happen to you in Germany? Maybe, I don't know.
Charles.
Anything Poland adjacent would.
If you want to say "fuck you," Charles, I think that would be completely appropriate.
No, Charles.
In Polish.
Charles, you motherfucker! You mentioned Hungary. Like, nothing funny happens in Hungary.
dude, I'm not fucking with that because I don't know. There could be like a Hungarian sort of criminal conspiracy in fucking Northeast Ohio. I'm not fucking with that. Hey, God bless Hungary. I'm with Hungary. Yay, Hungary.
So is
Solidarity,
Tucker.
Hungary.
So is Tucker Carlson.
Oh,
these
that
days.
fucker Oban. Yeah,
Oh man.
that
Wait,
fucking.
I want to take what I said.
Hold on. What's the name of that?
Okay, tell your Polish story.
I know. For once in history, tell a positive Polish story.
It'll be so weird because I've never heard a Polish story from you. So please do. Please do. Please do.
Please
Tell a story
do.
about Poland.
That's right.
So,
So for listeners,
I don't remember.
you don't get to hear all the Polish stories that Rick regaled, hours and hours and hours that are cut out of the edited episodes that you do hear. But it's a lot of hours of Polish stories.
I actually do not remember my Polish story.
Oh, now I feel bad. I'm sorry, Rick.
No. It's totally Charles' fault.
Okay.
But you
Okay.
know what? But you know what? I'm
We don't feel bad.
sure at some point in the future he'll remember
We're
it.
gonna hear the story.
We're gonna hear the story.
But can we move on to conspiracy theories? So,
Yes.
Charles, do you have afterthoughts about conspiracy theories?
I felt like I should have delivered a primal scream at my frustration and anger at sort of conspiratorial thinking. And maybe I should have been more nuanced and specific about the distinction between conspiratorial thinking and conspiracy theorizing.
Mhm.
The former being the automatic assumption that there is some type of conspiratorial mechanism in place, right? And that being the default way of seeing the world, which I find to be problematic. And I think I made a mention of how, as a part of my hypocrisy around being a philosopher in philosophy, that insults my sense of being a philosopher because there's no epistemic ground. There is no
Right.
sort of foundation upon which you can base. There are no first principles if you are a conspiracy theorist. But I like to think that in general, I personally held it together because there's no way to talk about this in a distracted way where you're not connecting it to what's taking place and how this type of thinking is affecting our immediate lives within sort of early 21st century America.
Yeah.
So credit to us for being the bigger people in relationship to these dumb fucks.
Lee, you seem to have thoughts about it.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually really happy with that conversation. I think we covered all the bases that I wanted to cover. First of all, I was gonna say to Charles that one of the things I had not really thought about before we talked about it in that episode was the difference between believing in a conspiracy theory and conspiratorial thinking. So the way I kind of thought about it was the person who makes up the conspiracy theory and the person who believes in the conspiracy theory, which I think are really different things. And I'd be interested in hearing more people kind of investigate that. What is conspiratorial thinking, right? Which is different than believing in a conspiracy theory. But I suppose maybe one of the biggest takeaways from that episode for me was, I think, a kind of consensus opinion among us all, which was the best, combat, or the best, way to approach conspiracy theories is I think what we ended up collectively calling the inoculation theory, right?
Right.
You got to get people before they get in the, the quicksand, right? And I think that, Rick has been anti-critical thinking since the first episode of this podcast. He continues to be anti-critical thinking, but thank God Charles and I are here to say that a good, solid education in critical thinking can actually help, right? Like, inoculate people
Is
against
is
falling into these
Richard
traps.
Lee the Polish equivalent of Limming and C? Because that seems to be.
Oh, oh, I didn't say it,
I'm just I'm just asking
but I
questions.
didn't object to
I'm
it.
just asking questions. I'm just asking questions.
He's just asking questions,
Just
Rick.
asking questions. That's all.
Look,
But Rick, what did you think about the episode? You non-critical thinker.
I came away thinking, I'm still suspicious of the role that critical thinking can have. Charles said something in that episode that I think I didn't fully acknowledge, and that is, with this crap program, I was thinking critical thinking is the job of philosophers and therefore like college level. But Charles was indicating, wait, we need to go way deeper, lower, not deeper, but lower.
Younger.
And I didn't realize that. So my suspicion of critical thinking is not about, I think Charles was right, that if we could get them, and Charles was mentioning, I think a child or book that was in high school or late, high school, I think. But there, I think critical thinking could be an inoculation, and I didn't see that. So this is now the second time in these afterthoughts where I have to admit I'm way more negative than I ever wanted to be. But I've learned a lot from you all, but that's one of the things.
Yeah, and
Also,
I'm still sorry, go ahead.
Also, I just think we're fucked.
Yeah, I mean, Rick, this seems to be a recurring theme with you, and we've all got it. You probably learned it in Poland. like Rick thinks that we're fucked. Also,
So what's
funny
we're
things
fucked in
happened
Polish?
to him in Poland.
Oh,
So how would a child say we're fucked in Polish?
so that's an interesting point.
Shoo shoo. We just learned
Shoo
that.
shoo shoo.
No, that's pee. We're not all peed.
So we're pissed upon. We're pissed upon.
No.
All right.
So
So wait, we need to talk about what's coming up next. So before Rick goes on Polish,
Oh my
like
god.
vulgarity. So look, everybody, we have our next 3 episodes are going to be on wait, what is it, you guys? Oh, it's
music.
It's no, that's not our next 3 episodes. Our next 3 episodes are on the white working class,
That's
where
right.
Rick is going to actually be in the hot seat.
That's right.
Then episode 23 is going to be on superheroes, which is a super fun conversation because Charles is going to be in the hot seat.
Oh, but mine wasn't a super fun conversation.
Charles is a superhero connoisseur, and Rick and I are 100% not. So that's a super fun conversation. And then episode 24 is literally the most fun conversation ever, which is on academic specialization, which Rick is hosting. And that will be episode 24.
Ooh,
and then
ooh,
after the next 3 episodes, again, you will see the 3 of us here. Hopefully me without the hopefully you'll see my new bionic eye and not these. But we'll be back here.
Wait, Lee, those are permanent, you said.
I mean, I really want to keep them. Hey, if you're watching this episode, comment below and be like, Liam Johnson, keep those glasses or I'll stop listening.
What I love
what?
is that
you know what? I'm committed to the podcast. I will keep the glasses.
Hold on. Sit still and get close to the camera. Hold your head up a little bit. So I can see if I can see myself waving in the lenses of your glasses, in the reflection
Can you
of your
see?
glasses. Can I see myself? No. Rick, wave.
You guys, everybody who's listening to this,
Yes. Yes.
just
I can,
just
oh my
note
God.
that my two male co-hosts are like, just lean in and let me see myself in whatever you're saying.
This is Dolly S.
Gotcha. Okay,
Well,
you guys.
well played.
This is the end. All right, let's sign off. Hey, Charles, tell them about our website.
Our website is at Hotel
No.
Bar. No,
No.
it's not. It's not. It's not.
That's
no,
our Twitter, but go ahead.
www.hotelbarsessions.com.
No, that is not our website. Our website is www.hotelbarpodcast.com. Charles, what is our Twitter?
Our Twitter is at Hotel Bar Sessions.
No.
Thank you for embarrassing me. Thank you for humiliating me. I appreciate that.
Lee, what is our Twitter?
What is our Twitter, Lee?
Hey, listeners, trust only this face. Please visit us at our website, www.hotelbarpodcast.com, or follow us on Twitter at Hotel Bar Podcast. And you can follow Charles at C_F Peterson, Peterson with an O, not an E. You can follow Rick at Rick Lee Philos. Rick Lee with 2 E's, Philos spelled like half the word philosophy. You can follow me at Dr. Liam Johnson. Doctors with abbreviated. Lee is spelled Leigh. You can find all this information on our website. We will catch you for the next Afterthoughts episode, 3 episodes from now. In the meantime, continue listening to this podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Peace, matriarchy, and hair grease.